They dragged her to the slaughterhouse because she was too big to breed. A towering alien giantess, priced by the kilo, sentenced to be carved alive. But when the blade touched her skin, one human broke every law in the galaxy, just to claim the life everyone else wanted butchered. The transport hall always smelled like cold metal and quiet suffering, but today it felt heavier, like the air itself knew something awful was about to happen. I was only there to log cargo entries, same as every cycle. Scan the crates, approve the transfers, pretend I didn't see anything alive inside. That was the job. That was how you survived under bioharvest. But when they rolled her in, everything inside me stopped. The giantess wasn't struggling. She wasn't begging. She wasn't even angry. She simply stood there, shackled at the wrists, towering over every guard in the room, glowing faintly with a soft blue pulse under her skin. Her eyes were the worst part. Not because they were frightening, but because they were calm, almost resigned, like she'd already accepted the verdict passed on her life. One of the officers chuckled, tapping her tag with the back of his data tablet. Too big to breed, too expensive to feed. Straight to processing. High value cut. Everyone laughed except her and me. My scanner beeped when I stepped closer. Name, Valora. Species, unknown giant variant. Status, slaughter authorized. She looked down at me, not with fear, but with something eerily gentle. You're kind? She whispered, as if she'd studied my entire soul in one glance. You try not to hurt what's helpless. I almost dropped the scanner. Kind? Me? I could barely pay off my oxygen tax. Kindness wasn't a luxury I could afford. But standing there, face to face with someone who was hours away from being sliced into premium steaks for rich off-world buyers, something inside me cracked. I tried to keep it light. Humor was my shield. So, do they always chain you like this? I muttered. Or is this a special VIP treatment? Her lips curved into a faint, exhausted smile. I suppose it's preferable to what comes next. That single sentence hit harder than any warning alarm. Across the hall, the processing doors hissed open, revealing a flash of steel tables and sterilized restraints. The guards pushed her forward. She didn't fight. She simply walked, tall and silent, as though she'd been doing this her whole life. Being owned, being judged, being prepared for someone else's meal. I didn't decide to save her. The decision made me, because watching a sentient being walk into her own slaughter felt like watching the universe lose something irreplaceable. And I couldn't let that happen. I should have walked away. That's what any sane worker would have done. Log the asset, sign the release form, pretend the screaming metal doors weren't swallowing a living being. That was the routine, my armor against guilt. But the moment Valora disappeared behind the first security gate, the routine didn't hold. My hands were shaking so badly I had to pocket the scanner. I kept hearing her voice, soft, steady, undeserving of the fate waiting for her. You try not to hurt what's helpless. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe she only said that because I didn't shove her the way the others did. But the truth was uglier. I had carried plenty of cages before. I had lifted things alive, things afraid, things that begged. I had looked away because that's what survival under bioharvest meant. But something about her, her size, her calm, her strange dignity, made looking away feel like a crime. The processing doors thudded shut. A red active light flickered to life. My chest tightened. I tried to reason with myself. She's just another assignment. The universe doesn't change because of one giantess. But the lie felt thin. A junior guard passed me, smirking. You should have seen her earlier. Didn't even flinch when they told her we'd freeze her nervous system so she stays conscious. Gotta respect that kind of bravery. Conscious. During slaughter. My stomach twisted. The guard kept talking, excited about the bonus he'd get for tagging her rare organs. I didn't hear the rest. I was already moving. Not fast enough to look suspicious. Just deliberate. The way someone walks when they've already made a decision they can't explain yet. I ducked into a maintenance corridor, heart pounding like a loose engine. I'd worked the facility for years. I knew its blind spots. I knew which doors the cameras ignored, which security mechs were slow to scan human IDs, which air ducts could carry a slender man like me straight toward the restricted sector. By the time I reached the auxiliary control station, my palms were damp with fear. I swiped my card, praying the system hadn't been updated. The panel blinked green. Inside, I stared at the row of monitors until I found her. Valora, now stripped of her chains, but not her dignity. She stood in the pre-processing chamber, hands at her sides, glowing faintly in the cold blue light. She wasn't fighting. She was waiting. Something inside me snapped in a way that couldn't be undone. I whispered to the screen, "I'm coming for you." And for the first time in my life, I chose to break the rules, not to survive, but to save someone else. The corridor leading to the slaughter sector felt colder than usual, like the walls themselves were warning me to turn around. My breath fogged in front of me, and every step sounded too loud, like the floor was keeping count of my betrayal. I wasn't a rebel or a hero or even brave. I was just a cargo tech walking straight into a place no one walked into willingly. But Valora was minutes away from losing everything. That thought pushed me forward. I reached the secondary checkpoint, a narrow metal booth where a board guard scrolled through his holoscreen. His rifle hung loosely at his side. I swallowed my panic and forced my voice steady. "Processing needs an equipment check," I lied, flashing my badge with the confidence of a man who hoped it would be enough. The guard didn't even look up. "They always need something. Go." Relief hit me so hard I almost stumbled. Past the checkpoint, the air changed. Gone was the sterile factory smell. In its place was something heavier. Coolant, ozone, disinfectant, and the metallic scent of fear. Machines hummed behind thick glass walls, freezing instruments glowing with red indicators. I walked deeper, heart pounding, trying not to imagine what had happened in those rooms before. A loud clang echoed from somewhere ahead. I flinched. My instincts screamed at me to run back to safety, to pretend none of this was my problem. But then I saw the chamber door marked PRE Processing 09, and everything inside me steadied. She was in there. A maintenance panel next to the door controlled the restraints inside. If I could override it, I could release her long enough to get her out. My hands trembled as I opened the panel, wires spilling out like veins. I knew the system. I'd repaired it last cycle. A small mercy. I crossed the red wires, bypassed the lock, and waited for the telltale click. Nothing. I tried again, sweat sliding down my back. Still nothing. "Come on, work," I whispered, tapping the casing in desperation. A soft whir answered me. The system rebooted, and the green override light flickered on. Inside the chamber, Valora lifted her head slightly, as if she sensed something had changed. She was still standing, tall, calm, unbroken. The sight of her resilience made my chest tighten. I opened the door. A wave of cold air hit me. She turned toward me, her eyes widening just slightly. "You came," she said quietly. For the first time in my life, I felt like someone saw me not as a worker, but as a person making a choice. "We're leaving," I told her. "Now." She didn't ask how. She didn't doubt. She simply nodded, trusting me completely. And together, we stepped into the danger neither of us could avoid anymore. The moment we stepped out of the chamber, the hallway felt violently louder. Every hum, every hiss of machinery sounded sharper, like the whole facility was inhaling before a scream. Valora walked beside me, her steps careful, trying not to crush the grated floor beneath her weight. Even exhausted, she moved with a kind of silent grace. I kept glancing at her, half to make sure she was real, half to reassure myself this insane plan hadn't collapsed before it even started. "Which way?" she asked softly. "Left," I whispered. "Maintenance exit leads to cargo tunnels. From there, we improvise." She raised an eyebrow. "Improvise? That inspires confidence." Despite everything, I almost laughed. "I'm doing my best here." We turned the corner, and that's when it happened. A sharp chirp cracked through the air, followed by the one sound every worker feared. "Facility breach detected. Stand by for security lockdown." Red lights flashed along the walls. The floor vibrated as magnetic barriers slid into place behind us, sealing the passage we just crossed. I froze. Valora didn't. Her hand, massive, warm, steady, rested gently on my shoulder. Keep moving. I swallowed my panic. They've locked the main route. We need another path. Valora scanned the corridor. That door. She pointed to a narrow access hatch barely tall enough for me. What is it? Vent circulation space, I said. Not built for people. Especially not. She was already kneeling. Show me. I hurried to the hatch, popped the emergency latch, and the panel swung open with a metallic groan. Behind it, a cramped passage disappeared into darkness. You won't fit, I said, breathless. Then I'll find another way, she murmured. But you need to survive. No, my voice cracked harder than I meant. We're not splitting up. She studied me, her expression unreadable but warm. I don't want you hurt because of me. Too late for that, I replied. I picked my side the moment I opened your door. Something changed in her eyes. An emotion deeper than gratitude, heavier than fear. She nodded. Then lead and I will follow. Before I could respond, the metallic stomp of security drones echoed from the far end of the corridor. Their targeting lasers activated, sweeping across the walls. Valora stepped forward, placing herself between me and the approaching threat without hesitation. Jax, she said calmly, run. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't just letting me save her. She was trying to save me too. The first drone rounded the corner like a metal wolf catching a scent. Its scanners swept the hallway, red beams slicing through the haze of warning lights. Valora pushed me behind her just as the drone fired a stun charge. The blast cracked against her shoulder, sending sparks across her glowing skin. She didn't even flinch, just narrowed her eyes, steady and determined. Are you hurt? I whispered. Not enough to matter, she replied. Move. We ran. The corridor stretched ahead like a metallic throat, pulsing with emergency sirens. The floor panels rattled beneath Valora's heavy steps, and each vibration followed us like a countdown. I tried to keep up, lungs burning, legs screaming. She could have outpaced me easily, but she matched my speed, shortening her stride, slowing her pace, never once leaving me behind. The drones weren't as considerate. Their mechanical claws scraped against the walls as they swarmed after us, more of them joining with every second. The alarms blared louder. Unauthorized sentient escape. Lethal protocols activated. Lethal. Not capture. Not neutralize. Lethal. They're not even pretending you're livestock anymore, I said between gasps. Valora's voice remained calm. I was never livestock, just convenient to treat me as such. A bolt of energy shot past my head, vaporizing a chunk of the wall. I stumbled. Valora caught my arm before I hit the ground. Jax, she said sharply. You must keep breathing. That was the plan, I wheezed. Ahead of us, the hallway split. Left led to more processing sectors, bad idea. Right led to the incinerator units, worse. Straight ahead was the freight lift, a bulky elevator that carried entire frozen carcasses down to storage bays. If we reached it, we could drop to the lower decks and cut through maintenance tunnels. It wasn't a plan, just a thin possibility wearing a brave face. Straight, I shouted. Valora nodded and sprinted, her bioluminescent veins flickering brighter with every step. She reached the lift console first and slammed her palm onto the override panel. Sparks burst. The old machinery groaned awake as if offended. The drones closed in. One leapt forward, firing a grappling hook. It latched onto Valora's arm, pulling with brutal force. She growled, not in pain but in frustration, and tore the cable free like ripping a thread. The lift doors finally slid open. Inside, she commanded. We jumped in together. Valora hit the emergency descent. The doors sealed just as 3 drones slammed against them, metal shrieking against metal. The elevator dropped fast, too fast. I grabbed the railing. She grabbed me. For a moment, the world was nothing but falling metal and the pounding of our hearts. And then the lift stopped with a bone-shaking crash. We had reached the lowest level. We were alive, but the facility knew exactly where we were.